My mother asked me to bring a real dish to dinner instead of another one of your ideas. My brother joked that my little online thing must be a pyramid scheme. My dad said it was cute that I played a business between real jobs. They passed around their phones, gushing over a CEO they'd seen on the news. A self-made woman who'd built a company they all secretly worshipped. They said I should be more like her, stop wasting my time, and grow up. They didn't notice how quiet I got when her photo flashed across the TV. They didn't recognize the logo on my laptop or the last name I use in public. They had no idea that the little hobby they mocked was the company they idolized, and that the woman they told me to be more like was sitting at the end of their table. My name is Anna. I'm 32, and I live in Seattle, in a condo that has more houseplants than furniture, and a view of the water if you lean at just the right angle from the balcony. On paper, I'm what business magazines love to call a self-made tech CEO. In real life, I'm just a girl from a working-class family in Tacoma who got good at two things: numbers and noticing patterns. My parents, Mike and Lena, have worked hard their whole lives. Dad's an electrician. Mom's a receptionist at a dental office. They know how to stretch a paycheck, how to fix things that break, how to go without so their kids don't have to. What they don't know is how to understand a life that doesn't look like theirs. To them, work is something you can point to: a truck with your name on it, a plaque on the wall, a uniform. Laptops and code and funding rounds sound like fairy tales. Growing up, I was the smart one. My older brother Jake was the social one. I brought home A's. He brought home stories. When you grow up in a house like that, you learn quickly that test scores earn you pride, but not always respect. By high school, I was tutoring half my class in algebra and secretly learning to code from online forums because my school's computers were too old for anything fancy. I loved it. It made sense. It felt like magic. My parents were supportive-ish. As long as you get a real job at the end of all this, Dad would say. Not just playing video games or whatever it is you do. I got a scholarship to the University of Washington, double majored in computer science and economics, and took a job at a payment startup right after graduation. For now, Mom said like it was a phase. Until you find something stable. The company folded 18 months later. I walked away with useless stock options, a crashed laptop, and an idea. People needed something better to help them deal with money before they hit rock bottom. Brightness started as a weekend project. A simple budgeting app that actually spoke human instead of bank speak. Round UPS, savings goals, gentle nudges when you were about to do something stupid with a credit card. I wrote the first lines of code at my kitchen table while working full-time at a bigger, more boring fintech company. I told my parents I was freelancing on the side. I told my coworkers I was playing with an idea. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Then a friend posted about it on Reddit. Then another wrote a blog review. Within a year, I had more users than my employer did for one of their feature products. You know this could be a company, right? My mentor at work said, leaning over my laptop one lunch break. I already have a company, I said. They give me health insurance.
He laughed. Sure, he said.
But this one could be yours. Leaving a stable job to build Brightness full-time was the scariest thing I've ever done. I didn't tell my parents right away. They already thought my computer jobs were flimsy. If they hear I'm quitting one to chase the other, their heads will explode. I told my best friend Maya. What's the worst that happens? She asked. You move back home and sleep in your old room for 6 months while you regroup? Your mom would secretly love that. The idea of moving back home felt like failure. So I decided I'd only tell them once I had something tangible to show. A real office, employees, maybe a feature in a paper they'd heard of. Brightness grew faster than I'd planned for. I brought on a co-founder, Lena, no relation, just another woman tired of predatory financial products. We cobbled together a tiny team, raised a seed round from an angel investor who'd made his money the old-fashioned way, selling a company to Google, and moved into a cramped office above a faux restaurant. In our second year, we landed a feature in a major tech blog, then in a business magazine, then, somehow, on a morning show segment about women changing how America saves. The PR team our investors insisted we hire branded me as Anna Lee, using my middle name as a last name because my real surname is long, hard to pronounce, and frankly, easier to keep off Google if you grew up in a small town.
It sounds cleaner, they said.
More founder why. I didn't argue. I also didn't send the clip to my parents. It wasn't that I was hiding. It was that I knew exactly how the conversation would go. As long as I was single, childless, and doing something they didn't fully grasp, my achievements would just be more proof that I'd chosen a life they didn't recognize. Your brother's got a good union job, Dad said once on the phone, pride thick in his voice. Benefits, pension, all that. You should talk to him about getting on with the company. Computer stuff is fine, but it's not forever. I was signing an enterprise deal with a major bank while he said it. Congrats to Jake, I said. I'm happy for him. When I finally did try to explain Brightness to them over dinner one visit, how many users we had, the partnerships we were signing, Dad waved it off.
So you made an app, he said.
People have those. Is it a real company, though? With, offices? Or is it just a little hobby that might make a buck? Mom chimed in with her gentle version. We just worry it could all disappear, she said. At least with a proper job, you know where you stand. I decided that night I'd stop trying to make them understand. I'd show up as their daughter, not as a CEO. I'd ask about Dad's back, Mom's book club, Jake's kids. I'd let them picture my work however they needed to in order to sleep at night. The universe, of course, had other plans. It started at a Sunday dinner. Jake's family and I take turns hosting once a month. That month it was my parents' turn. Mom made lasagna. Dad grilled something he insisted was real food for Jake because pasta's not a meal. I brought salad and a bottle of wine that cost more than my parents would have spent on an entire grocery run. I did not mention that Jake's wife, Sophie, was scrolling on her phone between bites. Have you guys heard of Brightnest? She asked suddenly. This app is saving our butts right now. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Bright what? Dad asked. Brightnest, she repeated, turning her screen to show him. Our logo, a little stylized nest with an egg inside, glowed on the display. It rounds up our transactions and stuffs the extra into savings. We've already put away $800 this year without noticing. My friend at work says their CEO did some big talk on TV about money shame, and it made her cry. Mom perked up. I think I saw that, she said. That young woman with the dark hair? So well-spoken. She was on the Today Show. Poor thing, said she grew up in a trailer, and now she's helping everyone else. That's a real success story. Your sister should watch that, Anna. Might inspire you to take your work more seriously. Jake snorted. Yeah, instead of puttering around with your little hobby, he said. What is it you do again, exactly? Something with budgets. Sophie kicked him under the table. Be nice, she said. Anna works hard. He shrugged. I'm just saying, he said. If you're gonna work yourself to the bone, you might as well aim higher. This Brightness chick is 30? Running a whole company. Meanwhile, you're still in that shoebox office above the faux place. I stared at my plate. Our office was now 3 floors in a downtown high-rise. We'd outgrown the faux place 2 years ago. Mom nodded, eyes on the casserole. Your brother's right, she said softly. Not about the shoebox, she added quickly, glancing at me. I'm sure it's very nice. But maybe you could set your sights higher. That CEO woman, what was her name? Soph. Sophie hesitated. Anna Lee, she said. Dad barked a laugh. See, he said. Same first name. That could have been you, kiddo, if you'd focused on something serious instead of trying every little thing that comes along. Heat crept up my neck. Sophie looked at me, eyes widening a fraction. You okay? She mouthed. I forced a smile.
Fine, I said.
Just thinking. Mom kept going, oblivious. She said she wants to help people like us, Mom said. People who didn't grow up knowing about stocks and 401ks. That's noble. And she didn't go on and on about herself.
She talked about her team.
That's a real leader. She also pulled in $20 million last year. Jake added, scrolling. Says here the company IPO'd. That's insane. You should send her your resume, Anna. Maybe she'd hire you as an accountant or something. They all laughed, good-natured in their minds. Inside, something in me snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a clean break between the part of me that had been waiting for them to see me and the part that finally understood they weren't looking. "Anna?" Mom asked. "You're awfully quiet." I looked at her. At my dad. At my brother, still chuckling. At Sophie, frozen, eyes flicking between me and the brightness logo on her phone, realization dawning that the CEO they were worshipping looked a lot like the woman sitting across from them. I took a sip of wine. "I'm fine," I said. "Pass the salad?" I didn't correct them. Not at that table, not that night. But as I watched them praise a fictional version of me and belittle the real one, an idea settled into place. I'd spent years bending myself around their perceptions. Maybe it was time to see what happened if I stopped. Sophie texted me that night after I got home. "Sophie, I just put 2 plus 2 together." Brightness. "Anna Lee." "Sophie, is it you?" I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back.
"Mia."
"It's me." 3 dots popped up. Disappeared. Then, "Sophie, holy." "Sophie, I'm so sorry I didn't say anything at dinner. I didn't know if you'd told them." "Me, I haven't." "Sophie, they were so rude." "Me, they were being themselves." "That's the problem." She called, not bothering to ask first. "I've been budgeting with your app for a year," she said as soon as I answered. "You literally saved us from drowning in daycare bills. And all this time my in-laws thought you were, what, dabbling?" "Something like that," I said. "You're on TV, Anna," she went on. "They show you at my gym on the screens when they do those inspiring women segments. You realize half the moms at my kids' school want their daughters to be you, right?" I swallowed, an odd mix of pride and embarrassment tightening my throat. "I realize I need to get better about how I let people talk to me," I said. "Especially people who are supposed to know me." "You're allowed to tell them," she said. "You're allowed to say, 'Hey, the CEO you're drooling over? She's been sitting here the whole time.'" "I know," I said. "I'm just not sure I want anymore." She went quiet. "I get that," she said eventually. "But watching them tear you down while praising some imaginary version of you made me want to stand on the table and shout." "I appreciate the restraint," I said dryly. "Dad would have had a heart attack." We both laughed, but underneath was something brittle. After we hung up, I sat on my couch in the half-dark, city lights flickering through the blinds, and made a decision. I wasn't going to chase their approval anymore. Not by shrinking. Not by showing off. I'd show up how I am and let the truth do whatever work it wanted to do. Or none at all. The next test came faster than I expected. A week after that dinner, my old high school reached out. Subject line, "Financial Literacy Night. Would you speak?" The email was from Ms. Harper, my former math teacher and the woman who'd once slipped a Girls Who Code brochure into my backpack with a conspiratorial wink. She'd seen the same morning show segment my mom had. Unlike my mom, she'd recognized my face. When she realized Anna Lee was the Anna she'd had in AP Calc 15 years earlier, she'd apparently screamed in her kitchen. We traded a few excited messages. She told me about the girls' STEM club she ran after school. "They're all so hungry to see what's possible," she wrote. "I'd love for them to meet you, even virtually. But if you were willing to come in person." I could almost hear the hope hanging at the end of that sentence. Going back to my hometown as a guest speaker made me itch. I picture my parents in those metal bleachers, arms crossed, listening to a version of me they'd never met. I pictured Jake, maybe, smirking in the back, making cracks about the nerds. Then I pictured a 15-year-old girl in a hand-me-down hoodie sitting in a plastic chair, hearing someone say, "I came from where you're sitting, and you're not crazy to want more." "Let's do it," I wrote back. "In person. One evening. Just, maybe don't put my last name on the flyers." She sent back 3 exclamation points and a date for late March. I didn't tell my parents. If they found out because a flyer made its way home from school, fine. If they didn't, also fine. 2 weeks before the event, Dad called. "Your mother says you're coming to town for something at the school," he said. "So?" "They'd found out." "I am," I said. "Financial Literacy Night. Teaching kids how to balance a checkbook," he snorted. "Teaching them how to not get wrecked by credit card interest," I said. And helping their parents understand some basics too, hopefully. He grunted. Well, your mother wants to go, he said. And Jake's wife is dragging him. Something about their budget. He paused. You want us there? The question surprised me. For once, he was asking instead of assuming. I'm not inviting people individually, I said. It's open to the community. If you want to come, come. If you'd rather not, that's fine too. He chewed on that for a second. We'll be there, he said. The night of the event, I pulled into the high school parking lot half an hour early. The building looked smaller. Or maybe I'd just grown. Inside, Ms. Harper met me with a hug that nearly knocked my bag off my shoulder. You caused a ruckus, she said, eyes shining. We had to move to the auditorium. Parents and students. The principal is giddy. Please tell me there's no red carpet, I said. She laughed. Just a podium and a janky projector, she said. Like old times. In the green room, a storage closet someone had hastily cleared. We went over the plan. I'd give a 20-minute talk about my path. Growing up here, learning to love numbers, building Bright Nest. Then Q&A. Then small group breakouts where guidance counselors and local bank reps would help answer practical questions. It's not about making you the star, Ms. Harper said. It's about making possibility feel less abstract. That I can do, I said. From behind the curtain, I heard the low hum of people finding seats. The squeak of metal chair legs. The crackle of the ancient PA system. Ms. Harper peeked through a gap and turned back to me. They're here, she whispered. Front row. My heart thumped. Both of them? I asked. Your parents, she said. Your brother and Sophie. The kids. And is that Jake wearing a button-down? Miracles happen. The principal did a brief intro, full of phrases like our own and role model. Then Ms. Harper took the mic. When Anna sat in my class, she was the only girl in the room who liked when the math got harder, she said. Tonight she's coming back to show you where that can lead. Please welcome Anna Lee. The lights hit my face. Applause washed over me, a strange, echoey roar. As I stepped onto the stage, I made myself do something terrifying. I looked at the front row. My mother, spine straight, eyes wide, hands clasped in her lap. My father, jaw tight, wearing his good flannel shirt. Jake, fidgeting, Sophie squeezing his knee to make him stop. Two small heads between them, my niece and nephew, whispering. None of them smiled. That was okay. I smiled at the kids in the middle rows instead. At the girls with notebooks on their laps. At the boys trying to look bored. Hi, I said into the microphone. I'm Anna. I graduated from here in 2010 in a class of 180 kids who mostly thought I was weird for liking calculus. Soft laughter. I run a company now. I continued. If you've heard of Bright Nest, that's us. If you haven't, that's okay. What matters isn't the app. It's how I got from that seat. I pointed roughly where I remembered sitting, to this stage. I told them about Mom taking me to the library because we couldn't afford new books. About Dad letting me take apart old radios in the garage as long as I put the screws back. I told them about being the only girl in APCS and having boys copy my homework while pretending they didn't need my help. I did not tell them about my brother calling my work a hobby last week. I did not tell them about my parents praising me only when my successes stayed far away from their dinner table stability. That wasn't for this room. When I mentioned the morning show segment, a murmur went through the audience. Wait, that's you. A girl near the front whispered a little too loudly. Yes, I said, smiling. That's me. Same person.
Same town.
No fairy godmother. I talked about money, too. About how no one had taught me about credit scores or index funds. How I'd learned the hard way that predatory products love people who grew up like we did. I saw my parents shift in their seats when I said, my folks worked hard, multiple jobs, secondhand everything, to keep us afloat. They did a lot right, but they didn't have the tools to build wealth, and that shouldn't be a crime. That's part of why I built what I did. When I finished, the applause felt less like a cheer and more like a wave of relief. Like a room full of people exhaling together. Q&A went as expected. Do you have to be good at math? No, but but it helps. Curiosity matters more. How do you start a company? One decision at a time. How much money do you make? Enough to say no to things I don't want. That's the goal. The last question came from a girl in a hoodie with chipped nail polish. What do you do when your family doesn't believe in what you're trying to do? She asked, voice small. The auditorium went very quiet. I thought about giving the safe answer. Tell them my parents were always supportive, that they framed my articles, that my brother bragged to his friends. Instead, I told the truth. Sometimes, I said slowly, your family can't see a version of you that doesn't match the one they're used to. That can hurt. A lot. You can spend years trying to convince them. Or you can surround yourself with people who see you now, not just who you were at 10. I saw my mother's eyes shine. My father stared straight ahead. In my case, I continued, it meant learning to live with the fact that the people who changed my diapers don't really understand what I do. And that's okay. I stopped needing their applause to keep going. Silence, then a single clap, then another, then the whole room. Afterwards, in the chaos of people filing out, kids asking for selfies, teachers introducing their own classes, I saw my family approaching. Mom in front, Dad behind, Jake hanging back. Anna, Mom said, voice thick. You were wonderful.
Thank you, I said.
We had no idea, she added, about any of this. I know, I said. That's why all your Bright Nest emails go to your spam folder. She blinked, nonplussed. I use that app, she said. Sophie set it up. It's been so helpful. If I'd known it was yours. What? I asked gently. Would you have believed in it more? Or would you have told me to get a real job faster because you were scared for me? She looked down. That's not fair, she murmured. It's honest, I said. There's a difference. Dad cleared his throat. That talk was good, he said. You speak like you know what you're doing. I do know, I said. I've been doing it for a while. He shifted his weight. So these people work for you? He asked, nodding toward the cluster of Bright Nest employees packing up pamphlets by the exit.
They work with me, I said. But yes.
I sign their paychecks. He rubbed the back of his neck. When we saw that TV thing, he said slowly, I thought they were exaggerating, making it sound bigger than it is. But this. He gestured at the room. This is real. Jake sidled up, hands in his pockets. Why didn't you tell us? He asked, half accusatory, half awed. I tried, I said. For years. You all called it my little project, my hobby, my keyboard thing. At some point, I stopped wanting to bang my head against that wall. Mom winced. That dinner, she said quietly. We were unkind. You were yourselves, I said. That's the part that hurt. There it was out in the open. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then Mom reached for my hand. We're proud of you, she said. We just didn't know how to say it in a way that wasn't afraid. Afraid of what? I asked. Afraid you'd fly so far you'd never look back, she said. Afraid you'd think our lives were small. And they are compared to yours, I guess. But they're all we knew how to build. I never thought your lives were small, I said. I just didn't want mine to be capped at someone else's ceiling. Dad nodded, slowly. We were wrong to speak about your work the way we did, he said, each word like pulling teeth. Doesn't matter if we understand it. It keeps people like us from getting screwed. That's worth something. It might not have sounded like much to an outsider.
To me, it was a tectonic shift.
They hadn't magically become different people. My childhood wasn't rewritten, but the dynamic had changed. They could no longer belittle my little hobby without tripping over the fact that half their friends now relied on it. They'd seen a room full of kids and parents treat me as an authority, a success, a role model, and they couldn't pretend it was fake. The next time Dad started to say, "You should get a real job," he stopped himself mid-sentence. The next Sunday dinner, when Jake joked about me playing CEO, Mom elbowed him hard enough to make his fork jump. "Your sister runs a company that pays people salaries," she said. "Show some respect." I didn't need them to worship me. They'd done enough of that for a stranger on TV. What I needed, and quietly got, was this. the end of their unquestioned power to define my life as small. My revenge wasn't cutting them out or flaunting my success. It was standing on that stage as my full self, letting the world see me and watching their story about me crumble, without me having to say a single, "I told you so." If there's anything I hope the girl in the hoodie took away that night, besides a free Bright Nest t-shirt, it's this. You are not obligated to shrink your dreams to fit inside other people's understanding. You can love your family and still refuse to let them talk about your work, your passions, your life like they're hobbies they get to grade. And sometimes the best revenge on people who mocked your little hobby is to become exactly what they told you to be more like, and then decide for yourself how much of that truth they actually get to hold.